All right, guys, we've talked about walking shots, and I want to talk to you about actually walking away from the camera. There's always going to be a time, or perhaps there's been a time in your career where you've done walking shots where the bride and groom are walking away from the camera and looking back at the camera, and it looks really awkward. And I'll tell you why. So I'll get you guys to actually turn around and face the door and hold hands. And what I'd like you to do is I want you to bring your outer feet towards the actual camera, towards me, pardon me. Actually, no, do the opposite. So bring the inner legs forward. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is try to look back at this camera. Right? It's a little bit hard, right? It just feels awkward. So what's going to happen is that you might get your bride and groom walking towards the, walking away from the camera and then just yell, "Hey, look at me!" And you've caught them with their inner legs forward. That's tough. Okay, let's go back again. Unravel. Now what I'd like you to do is bring your inner legs, as in the ones right next to each other, out towards me. So Dylan, your right leg back. Yep, left leg back. Now come a little bit closer together. Bring your feet, like Dylan, your left foot, Lisa, your right foot over the other one. That's it. And now turn back, look at me. It's a lot easier, okay? So it makes it a lot easier. So either you get them to walk with their opposite, the opposing legs, and then you catch them at this point. Me personally, I actually like to do a shot like this, where it feels like they're walking, but we get the actual outer legs or the inner legs backwards, and it makes it so much easier. While we're there, actually, before we go on, actually got another idea. So let's say, for example, you wanted to feature the bride and not the groom. You actually do the opposite with his feet. So Dylan, do me a favor, take one step forward. That's it. Now put your right foot forward, your other right foot forward, and back. So you got left and went back. You did the complete opposite that I said. That's awesome. Okay, now bring your left foot, okay, so your west foot, a bit more behind your right. There you go. Hand in the pocket. Now slightly turn towards your bride. Okay. Now, so see what happens now is that we're deliberately putting his right leg forward and his left foot back, so we're seeing a suggestion of him, and this is more about the bride. Now let's do the opposite. Okay, so Dylan, bring your right foot back now. Right foot right back. That's it. Bring your left foot a bit more over your right. Bit more, bit more, bit more. Okay, now Lisa, bring your left foot forward. Now come back one little step this way. Good. Now you're looking at him because it's a little bit awkward. Your right foot is back. Naturally, you can't turn over your shoulder as much as Dylan. Now Dylan, turn your body, twist your hips a bit more towards me, more, and look back over your shoulder back at me. You sort of see, so now you can actually get him in the shot and featuring him, and then the bride is a suggestion. So there's a good way of doing it. All right. If, for example, now a couple of my so-called common denominators where they break a little bit, guys, is when, as far as walking shots, is when they're walking away. Let me give you an example. So, Dylan, I'm going to get you right here, and Lisa, I'm going to get you behind. And let's say, for example, we're doing a kind of shot where Dylan is walking, and basically you're just holding her and you're sort of taking her for a walk, but you're leading the way. So now I want you to both face that way. Okay, but you're slightly ahead, Dylan. That's it, good. Now, Lisa, I want you to hold your dress. And Dylan, come a little bit closer to me. There you go, come a little bit more forward. Beautiful. Now, watch what happens. Now, according to my suggestion, I've always said bend the leg that's closest to the camera. And never have a partner leg. So what I'd like you to do, so even though that in this case, this actually works, that suggestion, as in the leg that's closest to me is the one that actually should go over. Let's do that. So put your right foot forward. Okay, good. And then your left hand in your pocket, if it's not already. And you're going to look back at your missus there, mate. Okay, so you see there's a bit of motion there. Now, with Lisa, she's just having her right arm straight, so it looks a little bit weird. So she's going to bend her elbow up a little bit. Good. And you're going to put your right foot forward there to me. Gorgeous. Now, do you see how there's harmony and repetition? That works really beautifully. Watch what happens when they part their feet. So let's just switch legs. So both of your left feet forward. Do you sort of see how the gap in the leg and now the dress looks a little bit wider? It just looks a little bit clumsy and a little bit awkward. So this sort of almost goes against, it goes with one of my suggestions, but it goes against another. Let me explain. Let's go back to where you were before. Okay, so right foot forward. Yep. So I said to you earlier, if you can bring this toe a little bit more this way. No, so bring the heel back, but keep the toe there. Good. All right, perfect. So remember when I basically said that when we do walking shots, the outer legs should go there. So outer legs in, out, and when they're out is when we photograph. Because we're saying that when we walk, that the bride is turning towards the groom and vice versa, and they're facing each other, and the energy is shifting towards each other. That's what you want. Now, this goes against that particular, that anomaly, or that it becomes an anomaly because now his right leg is this way. It's not really emotional because his energy is really shifting this way. So I'm saying to you that this is where I break that rule, where it actually looks better if his leg's on this side and looking over his shoulder, or looking exactly straight ahead, other than the other ways. Let's say if she keeps her foot like that, and then he brings his left foot forward. So switch your legs and your body weight. See, it just, something doesn't work. I always find that the front leg should be above the other one when it comes to walking, especially side on. Let's do that. Your right leg forward, and then you're slowly turning your shoulders around. And even this could be also the escort arm. That's actually more comfortable for him. And then just sort of lean forward, bring that shoulder back, the elbow back, and you're looking back at her. Good. And then let's have a look. Now, your legs are probably too pronounced, so bring your feet a little bit closer together, both of you. There you go, good. And then, so I would take a shot like this, bang, and then I could easily flip it and then get Lisa in the shot. Now, guys, before you move an inch, pretend you're on a turntable, as we discussed earlier, and I want you to keep that pose, but do a 180 degrees on me. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop. And now look at your man. Isn't that beautiful? So now, do you see how that works? Because now I love the fact that you're looking at so in love. That's awesome. And it's like you're actually looking at him like you love him, which you do, but I love seeing it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But she could be looking at him. She could be looking back at me laughing, giggling. Now, do you see how now her left hand is chopped off? Hold your hands together, but bring them down. There you go. So now I can see your hand. So that actually looks better. So there's so many things here, guys. Now, remember too, so you guys stay where you are. Remember when Dylan was this way, we said his leg looks better that way when that front leg is over the other one. Now that we've shifted back, it actually becomes the same thing. His left leg is back, but I don't see that awkwardness that I saw the other time. So just remember that there's always exceptions to the rule. And again, they're not rules, they're common denominators. After almost 3 decades of shooting, I feel that this is the best way based upon my experience with that girl, with that, that dress, with that suit, with these guys in this particular way. If your gut's telling you that something looks a little bit awkward, it probably does, and it probably is. So just remember that. So just unravel a little bit. So just remember, guys, walking shots, there is a science to it. There's not just, hey guys, go for a walk and hope for the best, because it could be out of sync. It could be a little bit clumsy. People could be out of the light. There could be something wrong. All right, I want to talk a bit now about what I call almost posing concepts. So giving you a place to start, because I'm giving you principles behind posing so that hopefully you never really run out of poses ever again. But ultimately, sometimes we just need a place to begin. Where do we begin? Well, we started off with that traditional pose, which was, in fact, let's start there again. So you guys were arms around each other's waists. You were looking at the camera, and you were holding the flowers. So point the toe, bend the knee, shift the weight back. This hand was in the pocket from memory, and this was just there. All right, there's a great way to start. There's your traditional full-length pose. Great. But what else do you do with the bride and the groom? And by the way, guys, just so you know, I'm often saying bride and groom. I love that in most countries, in most developed countries, that same-sex weddings are allowed, and they should be. I think it's great. So just know that I'm not being biased to a heterosexual couple. It could be Two guys, it could be two girls, I don't really care, but for the sake of this conversation, I am saying bride and groom a lot, but please know that I'm not discriminating against anything or anyone. I've got to start somewhere. All right, so let's discuss this. So this is a formal, traditional, full-length portrait. Fantastic. Bang, we've got that shot. Let's get rid of the flowers for a second, and let's think of posing concepts or foundation poses of somewhere to start. First of all, let's just go shoulder to shoulder, facing me perfectly. Okay, come on, little micro steps this way and a couple little steps forward. So that's it, great. All right, so what's been popularized over the years is a bride and groom, or two guys, two girls, whatever, looking blank with no expression, looking in the camera. Who said that that was a good idea? This is just, personally, I'm biased against it because there's no emotion. It doesn't feel right. You could just do a couple of things that could just break the monotony of what appears to be a bride and groom waiting to be shot on a firing squad, okay? So let's talk about this. So right now, let's just hold hands there. So right now, this is the American Gothic, like you feel like someone's going to be holding a pitchfork or whatever it may be. I just feel there's no emotion to it. And I get the fact that in some cultures, arguably where you are not even allowed to touch, like some Hasidic Jewish weddings, like strong Orthodox Jewish weddings where a bride and groom can't even touch, then you almost have to emulate that they're in love and they've got beautiful feeling without doing it. Now, how would I do something like that? I would basically shoot over the shoulder of the bride and the groom. I would increase my depth of field, and then I would give the illusion that a couple are together or touching, or if I didn't want to create that illusion, I'd make sure there's always air between the couple. So that's great. In this case, I think that we could just do one or two things to break the monotony of what would be a logical place to start. As in, if you were an inexperienced photographer, you would get the bride and groom just to sort of look in front of you and stay still, and start somewhere facing the camera, but they're waiting for a photograph. What do? Well, I find that if you have the guy just sort of straight on, in fact, if you turn his body this way, let's say, for example, now, you'll see very clearly that she looks wider than him because he's on an angle. So my suggestion is you'd almost never do that unless you're shooting over the shoulder of the groom. Because if I shoot over the shoulder of the groom, I'm getting a bit more of a wingspan. I'm actually hiding a bit of her body. And that's basically it. Doesn't matter whether they're slim, doesn't matter whether they're plus size or in between or whatever it may be. So I would almost never do a shoulder to shoulder shot like this. I would always at least create a little bit of movement with the bride. So let's do that. So now, what I'd like you to do, mate, you're standing perfectly straight like this, but now your arms around her waist and your arms around there as well. So you're turning your body into his. So he's flat to the camera. So before he turned his body in, so what I want you to do now, Lisa, is point your toe towards the camera, slide your heel back in, bend the knee, shift the weight back, shoulders back. Now this hand could be in a few places. You could either put that hand right on his hand. That hand on his hand basically says, I love where your hand is. This could also be holding the flowers, okay? And we could hide this hand because it might be covering up the thinnest part of her waist as we discussed. But do you see, looking back now, actually looking back now, so it's funny because when you pose something, it may feel and look a certain way when you're there, but I find that when you step back, before you even look at the camera, you got to look and see if it's awkward or not. Here's a good common problem. I'm glad we're seeing these things because we can help you correct them. He's actually putting his left arm behind Lisa, and it's a little bit high. It's riding up the jacket a little bit, so we can't do that. So here's what happens too. So he was front on, and his instinct is telling him to turn his body this way, but his feet are facing the camera. So the problem is, that also highlights to you a problem that we often have, and that is that feet can't be like this and the upper body, shoulders like this. It just doesn't work, doesn't feel right. So just remember that posing starts from the feet. That'll make everything more relaxed and so on. Personally, again, I don't like having a part between the feet of the groom. It doesn't work for me. If you remember, I like the idea of crossing that leg over. So Dylan, do me a favor. So with your right foot, just put it like this. And see if you can put it up to a point. Yep. So you see how now there's a little bit more finesse there, and then we relax that jacket a little bit, make sure that arm is a little bit lower. That's it, beautiful. And you can turn your shoulder right in, right more, beautiful. And do you see how now we're creating a little bit more movement in the body of the groom? This is not meant to be incredibly romantic. This is just a bit of a variation of a foundation pose, full length, rather than just shoulder to shoulder, flat looking into the camera, or beyond that traditional pose where she was holding the flowers and everything like that. Now, where could we go from here? Now, yes, he's very happy because he's got his hand on her butt. If he wants a bit of that feeling, he can do that back this way, and then we can totally miss that. Again, bend that knee a little bit more pronounced. Shoulders back, arch the booty there. Beautiful. And then she can either hold the flowers or not, or she can put her hand right here. Be careful that the arm is not pressing up against the body, as long as there's breathing space. Now, when it's cold, also remember that sometimes the weather could give you an idea for a shot. Now, I don't normally like chopping off fingers, and if you look at this camera right now, you probably know that I should have learnt my lesson when I was 4. When I was 42 years ago, I cut my finger, but that's okay. But I don't mind when, let's say, the bride wants to bring the hand in the chest. I think that's really pretty, and there's an illusion of just a warmth and security, and it's got a beautiful feeling. Now, that's where I can break the rule of not chopping off fingers and all that kind of stuff, no issue. Or very simply, you know, although I always like posing to be mirrored. In other words, if this is romantic, I like the bodies to be romantic. Now, their faces are quite beautiful and together, but this hand is saying, I don't really care. Now, really, really important that you have to understand that every part of the body with the pose, and in fact, lighting, mood, location, cropping, should amplify what you're trying to say to the viewer of this photograph. In this case, I'm not really trying to be too sexy or romantic. This is more really about the groom. I'm basically saying about the groom, hey, I've got this gorgeous girl sort of draped on me, so to speak, as in the groom, but I don't really care. Like, this is just, it's all about me. I'm really cool. So that's the metaphor that we're trying to say. So I'm not trying to be romantic. She's trying to get all involved. Turn your face into his, and then turn your face a touch to the left, chin up a little bit, and then connect. Beautiful. Now this hand, either we go 4 fingers behind the ear and slightly bend it, but again, this is more of an editorial shot because it's not really about emotion. But you see as well, you could be posing a bride and then she could totally forget the lower part of her body. Remember? Point the toe, bend the knee, shift the weight back. There we go, bang. So now we have this beautiful little pose. Now, don't forget that when you are photographing, when you are posing, that it is not just about that initial instinct that this was going to be a full-length portrait. Sometimes I'll pose something full-length and think, you know what? I think close-up works a lot better. I'm going to totally just ignore the full-length part of it and go close-up. Even if the full-length shot was beautiful as it was already, take that full-length portrait, don't waste it, because you want to sell the spread of a wedding or a portrait album. So now you take that full-length portrait, then go close up, change your angle, perspective, cropping, and all of a sudden, I've got the spread of my album. Don't waste 300 shots on one scene. Take 3, 4, 5. Be done, knowing that in your album, you'll only have 2 or 3 photographs on that spread regardless. So there we go. If we want a little bit more engagement, that's of course now he has to turn his body towards the bride. Now actually keep your hand in your pocket, but turn your body and your feet. You can unravel your feet now. So turn your feet properly. This is a common mistake. Let's go for a kiss. Let's see if you guys kiss the right way. See, isn't it funny? Okay, this is perfectly imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. Why? Is because it's teaching us a valuable lesson. I guarantee you guys that if you look back at your folio, you look at your kissing shots, if you're already a photographer, you will notice that you've got kissing shots. You can breathe now a little bit. You've got kissing shots where the groom's got his hand in his pocket, and actually just now, in the last few seconds, Dylan just bent his leg. Go straight again with your leg there. When the groom's leg is straight, especially that front one, there is no energy shifting towards the bride. And also with his hand in his pocket, his face might be saying, I love you, that's an awesome kiss, but the hand is saying, well, I don't really care. I mean, you're awesome, but not really that awesome. So just remember, kissing, romantic, interactive, playful, everything. Take that hand out of the pocket. Let's do that now, Dylan, and basically hold her where it feels comfortable. There, see how she automatically brought her elbow out, and now her arm is off her body. He's slightly bending his knee. Bring your lower part of your bodies together, and then put your toe beyond his foot, hug him with the leg, and then now we've got beautiful shape. Turn towards us a little bit, like twist this way, guys. Perfect, bit more, bit more. Beautiful. That hand on the back of the head again. That right hand, darling. That's gorgeous, beautiful. Now, both of you, upper bodies, lean towards me. And then relax those fingers, good. And now, if you wanted to, turn your face towards me there for me, Lisa. Gorgeous. Now, right now, he's right into her. I call this what my girl interrupted look. If you want to, just turn a bit more towards this other camera. Beautiful, just there. So they're in a moment, and she's just basically totally into him. And then all of a sudden, she just glances at the actual camera, and it's got that beautiful sort of voyeuristic sort of feel, which I absolutely love. So remember that one shot could flow to the other, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the foundation poses in terms of full length looking at the camera. So we had that traditional one. We said, well, I said, that if they're both towards a camera, it looks a bit flat and unemotional, and that's okay. That might suit some cultures depending on what you're doing and what you like. But if just changing Lisa in, as we saw, just breaks that monotony of both being straight. And then of course, when we got Dylan to just do that with his feet, it looked really awesome. Once you start turning into each other, there's several things that you can do. So let's start looking at those options. So you're facing each other right now. So I want you to cuddle up to each other. Just come a touch forward. That's it, and forward towards me. I want you to hold each other, and then guys, come a touch back this way. A bit more. Beautiful, just there. Great. So first of all, let's bring the hands on the hips like you're doing right there. And Lisa, your hands on his hands. Okay. Your right hand, just bring it around his body so I don't really see it, so that you're nice and comfortable. Bring it lower though, underneath his armpit or something like that. Beautiful. Okay. So that hand of Lisa's saying, I love where your hand is. Now, Lisa, put your hand on his forearm like we talked about. Yeah, there you go. Do you see how much more emotional that hand is? Now bring it on his bicep the way I taught you. There you go. So you see how she started and slid it down? That's the thing, guys, is once you actually teach your brides what you're doing and why you're doing it, they'll get into it straight away because they're saying, oh, I don't want to look unemotional. I don't want to look not in love and all that kind of stuff. Bring your hand on his face. Beautiful. See that little slight bend? She slid it down. Or we can actually bring her right hand, bring it out underneath his armpit, and then bring it around the back of his head. And then slide it down. That's it. Beautiful. Now just turn a little bit this way so we can see it from this angle. Other way. Beautiful, beautiful, good. Now we said that her nose will be on the outside of the kiss. Let's do that. Good, chins up, upper bodies towards me. And then point your toe down, get your knees touching, bit of a shape. Look at how straight away, how beautiful that was. His right hand now is covering up the waist, a slight touch. So he's gonna slide his right hand towards him a little bit. There you go, beautiful. Now we see that beautiful gap. Now from this position, we can do so many things. They can kiss, they can almost kiss, they can kiss and smile. We can kiss his cheek, let's do that. Let's just kiss his cheek, kiss his temple. Beautiful. Now let's do the opposite. Now he's gonna kiss your neck. Beautiful, let's kiss her cheek. Let's kiss her temple. Let's whisper in her ear. Let's whisper in his ear. Do you see how quickly we went from one pose to the other? Because the sensibilities of those shots match, because we're all romantic, we're cuddly, we're playful, we're sexy, whatever, all we need is 2-3 shots to get in there and use the spread of a wedding album. Now that I'm talking and talking to the camera right now, do you see how they've settled into this beautiful forehead touching shot? I can't really see them. So again, I'm gonna basically say, stay where you are. Guys, turn your faces outwards towards me. There we go. Beautiful. I love this because now Dylan's looking into nowhere saying, where do I look? I'm like, Dylan, if I were you, I'd look at the view, hashtag boobies. And then we take a beautiful shot. And there she's giggling, chin up a little bit, have some fun. Now, of course, I don't recommend to say that to every bride and groom. I know the guys, I know that wouldn't be offended. And I know they're still smiling, but how beautiful is that shot that we've got there now? The cool thing is that not only do we have a great full length shot, I would get close up now and have some fun and change my angle and do it all over again. Remember, posing is not good just from one angle. It can be changed very slightly, and it works really well. So do you sort of see how many shots we've got there? I'm loving that. Now what I want you to do is I want you to bring your hands over. We've done that a couple times with the flowers. Now, I wanted to see what she would do naturally because she's done it well, not knowing exactly what I normally want. Normally, this pose done incorrectly is like this, where we get two amputations. In other words, from this angle, we don't really see any hand. This is sort of being foreshortened. It comes out of nowhere. It's being squished and hidden by this arm. Now, what I prefer to do with this kind of a pose, I prefer this over this. So if you're going to have an amputation, at least only have one. And again, where the problem lies with this kind of a photograph is where you do not see any breathing space above the chin and the top of the elbows. So what we do is we lean towards the camera. And again, you get them to say, guys, just look at my hands, turn your faces outwards. Beautiful. So now we see more of what's going on. Especially important if you are a shorter photographer. This is an important one. Here's the cool thing. You can do one where they're just looking diagonally into each other. Then you can do one with the bride's sort of looking off. Then you can get her basically back in, and then his face is a little bit out. And then you could turn on a bit of an angle, but you sort of see how cool that would be for another shot there as well. But again, that hand in this particular camera angle looks a lot better than amputating both hands like this. So remember, you're going to have an amputation, at least only have one. Some people do this, and that's okay, where you stretch it out sort of properly like this, and that's okay. But again, I would rather one hand over the other. This hand can work, but I'd also want to sort of just turn the hand a little bit so I can see a little bit of the ring. Also, when you're photographing, how cool would it be to shoot with a shallow depth of field where, Dylan, turn your face to the left, mate. Tilt your face to the left. Gorgeous. She can grab the back of the head like this. Chin up a little bit and turn your lips right into him. Good. So now we've got this hand just like this. Beautiful. By the way, if the groom is balding, this is a great shot to do because we can cover up the bald spot. But this one is great because we can actually focus on the ring and her out of focus, focus on her, and then the ring out of focus. Remember too, by the way, guys, that if you have the bride's eyes out of focus, personally, I believe the common denominator that works a lot is when she's out of focus, bring her eyes down. Same for the groom for that matter, okay? So remember that. All right, check it out. So, of course, we've got some really nice foundation poses. Now, what else can we do? Where else can we start? Well, what about maybe the groom hugging the bride from behind, which we somewhat did earlier, but I want to expand on it. So what I want you to do, mate, is I want you to, so Dylan, turn this way and just give her a hug from behind with your face on this side, your hands on this hand, and then turn this way. And then point your toe towards the camera, Lisa. Bend the knee, shift the hip back a little bit. Bring your legs a little bit closer towards her, mate. That's it. And then now, you sort of see how the bride's a little bit too close to the camera. I feel like we need to get Dylan a couple steps closer. There we go. Good. So let's come back. Always remember, posing, don't look at it up close. It's almost like going to a movie theater, an IMAX, and you're just looking around the screen. You can't see everything. Just stand back a little bit and you might be able to see more. So right now, that's a good foundation pose, right? They look good on the lower part of their bodies. I think that dress is just pulling a little bit on your toe there. Just that's it, perfect. Now I can see from this camera angle, your hands are popping out of nowhere. So just get rid of those. Beautiful, good. So there's a great foundation pose to work from. Okay, so that's where we can start. But what else can we do here? Well, there's so many things. First of all, we can get him to turn his face. Bring your lips right on her temple. That's it. On her forehead. So just make it easier for him. Drop your chin there, darling, on the forehead. Beautiful. Love that. I want you to, Lisa, tilt this way. Chin up a little bit. Give her a kiss on the cheek. That's it. Now, be careful of this pose because some people will get the nose right in the eyeball. Let's just do that on purpose. Yep, that's not going to work. Turn your body this way so that camera sees what just happened. Yep, you don't want the nose in the eyeball. All right, I'm sure that her eye smells awesome, but and that's pretty much what I do too. So when I get my couples in a shot, I'll say some obscure crap like that, and they'll just start laughing because it's just silly. All right, so from there, we've got basically him interacting with her, but that's just the face, right? Now, also what we can do is she can just look into her shoulder. This looks really weird. She's gonna feel like she's going cross-eyed, but I can't see that awkwardness. Now, I wanna bring his chin up a little bit and then turn his face a bit to his right. There we go, so we take that nose off the eye. Chin up a little bit there, mate. That's it, beautiful. Looking into each other, into the shoulder there, gorgeous. Now, I want, Lisa, you look into this camera. Beautiful, nice, that's gorgeous. Chin up a little bit now, throwing your head back a little bit, gorgeous. And you sort of see how many shots we can have, and we haven't really changed any part of the hands or the body. It actually works really well. Now, what else can we do here with the lower parts of the body, with a hugging from behind shot? Well, let's look at it. If, let's say, for example, this was a plus-size bride, or maybe she had thicker arms and wanted to soften them, I would not do this. I would do this. And bring this elbow back a little bit. Beautiful. I would put the groom's hand above her like this. And I would probably crop in this particular angle. But how beautiful is this crop right here? I would always crop just either above the bust or below the bust. It's just a waste of a curve if you don't do that. So this is really pretty. Or another really cool thing we can do is this. We grab her right hand. I call this the dirty dancing pose. Okay, so here's where we get it wrong. In fact, let me show it to you right now. So I want you to face the camera perfectly there for me, Lisa, with your body and your shoulders. Okay, and now bring your chest on her back. Just where you're popping out your face. Now, what I want you to do, Lisa, try to grab his face with your hand. It's weird, right? It's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So you guys, you must know that, again, this dirty dancing pose, if you look at the dirty dancing poster, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is awkward. It feels clumsy. Now, so basically what's happening is if you're looking at a side bird's eye view, you've got the chest of the groom and the bride's back like this. What you want is, you don't want this, you want this. It's not exactly perpendicular, it's a bit of an angle, it's a bit of a V almost. So what we do is, if you now very subtly turn towards me, there we go. Doesn't that feel nicer? Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, this hand goes on the face. This hand can say, I mean, it can go on the waist, it can go anywhere, but this hand on the wrist says, I love where your hand is. See, you wouldn't do that for a girl. Like a girl wouldn't put the hand like that, but it's tender, but it's strong, which is great for a masculine energy. Now, the problem is that this camera angle is not the right way to go. We've got to be careful. If we move too far this way, then this elbow will come out of nowhere. We need to see a little bit of the length of the arm. So we're going to bring his hand back a little bit. Turn your body like on a turntable like this. Good. Now, point your toe, the right toe towards the camera, bend the knee, slide the heel back. Beautiful. Gorgeous. And now you're going to turn your face into his a little bit. Now, this hand could either be, again, it could be something like this. So we're not covering up the thinnest part of the waist. It's there. Love the way they're interlocking there as well. If that's a problem with the hands, you simply just get rid of it. No issue. Or she could be holding her flowers, whatever. But I think that this is where the moment is. And I love the fact that his legs bent. Come a little bit closer with your body. Always stand back, guys, when you're posing. Always stand back. Dylan, your right hand, bring it a bit more this way. There you go. Good. So you can see from our angle, you've basically got the length of her bicep without being overt about it. Her hand is coming a little bit into the waist, but actually I don't mind it in this stage because she's got a white dress. It's silhouetted against the dark shadow of her hand. I think that actually works. Now in this position, he can kiss the forehead. He can kiss the temple. Yep, you can just tickle his chin. Come nice and close. That's it, sort of just like that. Beautiful, gorgeous. Do you see how naturally she got into the moment and her shoulder went up? That's what I like as well, is that we're giving the couples permission to be themselves. Now, I know that sounds like an anomaly because we just pose that. They don't do that naturally. But again, you don't get hair and makeup done. You don't get your dress all done and all fancied up so you look like you do every other day of the week watching Game of Thrones, sitting in front of the TV. We want to bring out the best of them. So build the pose, build it as in build the architecture. And then when you get the emotion out, they break the perfection of that pose, I think that's more than forgivable. Rather than just, I don't know, hug and let's just do what you want, stand there and I'll hope for the best and just photograph anything that I want. All right, so there's a couple of ways to do it. I love this because if you were a plus size, let's do this again. If you were a plus size, I would actually do this because that other pose would not work. This pose is awesome because it's hiding her right arm. These hands are softening her belly if she was plus size. Then we could turn a little bit this way. This hand's looking beautiful and soft. Bring your legs together so they're touching there. And then just lean back a little bit there, Lisa, for me. And that's it. Beautiful. Turn your face into his. And then chin forward there, mate. Chin up. That's it. Good. And then bring your chin up a bit, mate. So you're there you go, just there. Gorgeous. And now, do you see how you're doing this, Lisa? Just bring your hips back a little bit. There you go. Big difference, right? So let's come back. Always look at the pose afterwards. This is a gorgeous pose, a great foundation pose. It's good for plus size, good for small size, and it really, really works. If she was plus size, not only are we hiding a little bit of the belly with the hands, we could also bring the flowers, and the flowers will be your best friend. And that works as well. Fantastic. I love that. And this again, you could sort of play around and fool around, kiss the forehead, kiss the temple. You could look off into the distance. You can giggle into each other, all that kind of stuff. I love that. Okay. Now, can we... That's awesome. Can we get... You are ripped, man. Look at the biceps. What's going on there?
I know.
It's very, very impressive. I met her 10 years ago, and look, she had a gorgeous figure and all that kind of stuff, but there was no cross-training back then. Now, can we get the bride hugging the groom from behind? I think that the height difference of these guys is probably pretty normal. You know what I mean? The groom's a little bit taller. Can we get the groom hugging from behind, standing up straight, and make it look good? Well, let's see. So Dylan, turn and face that way. Come back a few little shuffles. So maybe a little more forward. And then turn this way a little bit. And Lisa, come this way. Without even thinking, I just want you to hug him from behind. Okay, so the problem with this is that it almost looks like a little kid trying to jump up on dad's shoulders, right? It looks a little bit weird. So we need to make it less weird. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, you have to know that this kind of shot, full body, is not going to look incredibly romantic because there is a bit of a disconnect. It works better with the guy from behind, hugging from behind, because he can sort of sink in. And in other words, it's almost like spooning. You know what I mean? Like Melissa and I, I'm always the big spoon. I want to be the little spoon. Right now, she's trying to be the big spoon, but she's smaller. It's not going to work. But how do we make the small spoon look better in this situation? All right. What we have to do is not have the chest to the back. He needs to just turn on a bit of an angle. You need to come around a little bit. Now again, so we want to hug from behind. I want your hands in your pockets. Actually, we'll get to that in a second. So do you see how now, bring your toe, knee, beautiful. Let's have a look. Yeah, so do you see how that's beautiful? Now, this is a great shot for a plus size bride because now we're softening her. But even for a petite bride like we have with Lisa here, this is gorgeous because he looks really cool. It's looking really awesome. Even if, Dylan, if you were to turn your body a touch more that way, so you're a bit more side on, perfect. And if you were to lean your body forward a touch, stop, and then Lisa, come closer to me. Beautiful, that looks amazing. Now, if we wanted a little bit more emotion with the hands because we want it emotional, first of all, close up like this looks amazing, right? This looks fantastic and we don't really get the sense that he's putting his hand in his pocket. But if we wanted this hand for something to do, we simply do this. Beautiful. And now we can do this. See, she knows what's going on. Chin up a little bit, watch the hand on there. Stand up nice and tall and straight. And then come, that's better. So shoulders back, lean forward with your chest, arch your back a little bit. If you come closer to me, Lisa, that'll be better. Good, and then you're turning there, and that's nice. Now, this hand, if you wanted to do something with this hand, this would simply be like this. So it's almost like we're giving him something to do that actually makes sense in that particular position. So for me, if I was to do something like this, as in I wanted a romantic shot, great. If not, I would just get his hands in his pockets as I did earlier. Now this, what can we do here? We can get her to kiss him on the temple, on the cheek. Or even, actually, I know this sounds really weird, smile on his temple. Isn't that beautiful? See? So straight away it makes him smile. It actually makes me smile. It's beautiful. It's really, really cute. So remember, don't waste your shot. Don't waste your pose. They're already there. They're ready to rock. Okay, let's relax. How about we go back to back, because we're running out of concepts. Because how many ways, apart from sitting or lying down or anything, how many ways can you do this? Well, it's we're going to work this out. So in this position, how do we make this look good? Well, I like the idea of this when they're holding, actually, just relax your jacket there for me, Dylan. That's it, good. All right, now Lisa, what I'd like you to do is I want you to bring your toe beyond his, but sort of back. So now, there you go, perfect, love that. Whole hands, just there. Slightly bend, oh, a bit of tricep action going on there, Lisa. A bit of definition. I love that. Just bend the elbow a little bit though. That's it. Intertwine a little bit. I've got to feel this shot, so intertwine a little bit more. Let me see what that looks like. So relax, unravel. Do it like the. No, that doesn't look right. 1 second. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Good. Slightly bend that knee, mate. So this is not going to be a romantic shot. It's not. We're giving it some little glamour there with the, or a little bit of warmth there with the hands. But this could be another idea of a traditional shot. So let's say if you had a very conservative couple and they didn't want to face each other for some reason or something was going on, but I think this looks beautiful. What I love about it is there's a sense of grace in there because of her legs sort of going out there as well. And this is where also they could crack up laughing hysterically with their heads touching at the back. But isn't that cute? So I love that. This could work full length as it does, and it could actually work close up as well. So that's a really beautiful thing. So back to back is a bit of a struggle. There's not many variations that you can do that actually work well. So just know that it's a very high degree of difficulty to get this looking romantic without looking awkward and clumsy and all these different things.